So which one is better, Honda or EGO? I can tell you right now, that answer is inconclusive. Too many variables to determine a clear winner. These are two really good lawnmowers. I'm going to go ahead and give you my overview of why I have two lawnmowers and which one I plan to use personally. All right, so here's a comparison that I've actually been dying for quite some time. What's the difference between the brand new EGO twin blade lawnmower versus a Honda twin blade lawnmower? These are two really good lawnmowers. They both mulch up really well. So pro with the EGO, it is made out of plastic. It's battery powered. It's very lightweight. It's so easy to maneuver versus the Honda. Honda is a much more heavier, much more clunkier of a machine. It isn't easy to roll on itself. So, I mean, that's a win category right there. It's just in the weight in itself, this EGO is much lighter than this Honda. And the other win is maneuverability. So these both are self-propelled lawnmowers, but this one right here, I mean, I can just easily move it back and forward versus this Honda. It is also self-propelled, but if you don't use a self-propel, it is clunky. I mean, just pulling it back, there's a lot of more resistance. And look at this. I actually hear it clicking when you move forward. One finger, back. Let's see if I can do this with one finger. All right, a little bit forced. That hurt. Let me try to pull it back with one finger. Okay, come on. Yeah, see, it's just not that easy to maneuver. So so far, that's two wins for the EGO versus the Honda. Weight and maneuverability. So from a point of view perspective, here I have my Honda. Let's just say I'm at the end of my cut. I want to turn around. Gotta lift it up, turn this around. Hear a little bit of clicking. It's a little bit resistance. And there I go. EGO, same situation. I'm at the end of the cut. If I want to turn around, look at this. This is just, I mean, it's hard to see on video, but that was very effortless. It was just so easy to maneuver. All right, so what if you're a tall person? Well, look how tall this thing is. This is the highest setting. This is the highest setting with Honda. This is the highest setting with EGO. I mean, it is a huge difference. This is only a few months old and it's already scuffed up and scratched. You can't buff this out. You can't repaint it. It's just the way plastic is. It's not as durable as, let's say, steel. Here's a steel deck. This is about 6 years old. It is also scuffed up, but by comparison, you would think this is a 6-year-old. And keep in mind, I try my best to clean it up. I have a little OCD, so before this video, I actually tried my best to make it nice and pretty and clean both lawnmowers up with Pledge. This is really good, especially on plastic. But I find that this lawnmower, because it has all these little divots and craters on top of it, tends to retain a lot of dust versus the Honda. I mean, obviously, a lot of lawnmowers are the same way. Most of the dust will just accumulate around this ring. Get a leaf blower, blow that off, or do the same thing here. And I find just with use, a lot of dust will accumulate right here in the door. So when I open it to take the battery out, a good chunk of it will still fall in here. So it's a little dirty, you can see. And I find myself having to clean the inside of that door. So that's a little win. And I don't even know what category you want to say that is, but that's a quick win for Honda. But in terms of deck, I mean, I just knocked down EGO on the deck. It's also a win. So being a plastic deck, I can show you how it is on the bottom. A plastic deck will never rust. These blades will rust, these bolts will rust, but the deck itself will remain intact. As with any lawnmower, you have to clean these things, so just don't think because it's made out of plastic you can just go ahead and leave grass caked on there. You want to still clean it out. But let's just say you do forget. You don't have to worry about this thing rusting out your whole entire deck, as with, let's say, the Honda. Now this Honda always looks very pretty. I mean, look at this. Look at this deck. It's nice and pretty. But let me tell you one thing. It did not look this way. I put a lot of time and effort to make the deck look this way. I bought this lawnmower used on Facebook Marketplace for a couple dollars. The individual who sold it to me sold it really cheap because the crankshaft was actually bent and this thing was shaking vigorously. I used a little bit of persuasion tools and sledgehammers and I was able to get this crankshaft straight, and it works and it functions. Because of the whole quarantine thing that's going on right now, I actually bought this as a hobby. This is my 5th lawnmower I bought during the quarantine. I started a hobby of just buying used lawnmowers and fixing this up. So EGO, you will never have to worry about a rusty deck. Any gas mower and even an electric mower with a steel deck, they will rust if you do not take care of it over time. As you saw how my deck was nice and clean, it's not a simple job. You have to get wire brush and sanding tools and sand it down really good down to the bare metal as much as you can, and then paint it. So when it comes to features, they're both equal. Now, not every single Honda mower is the same. Some have more features than others, but this one right here has an electric start. So you just pull it and start it. Obviously, it's not going to start because I removed all the gas from here, but it's a really good feature. And same thing, this is a push button. So you just hold this down, push the button, and it starts. So that's a good feature right there. But then from advanced features, this is where some advanced features actually start to lean a little towards Honda's favor. This is my whole setup right here. I don't have any additional accessories. Everything is on the mower. Whereas with this EGO, it comes with a good chunk of accessories. In fact, here are all the accessories that this EGO comes with. So let's go ahead and do a quick comparison. All right, so I have my bag here. Let's say I don't want to bag anymore. I want to go ahead and start mulching. Mulch, bag. What I like about this is this cool little feature. It has a little flap in here. So again, here's a flap. This is the bag mode, mulch mode. All right, so here's my bag. I lifted up the handle out the way. I want to go ahead and put this in mulch, just like you do with a lot of other gas mowers. Got to take the bag out. Then you got to look for the mulch plug, and you got to make sure you don't confuse it, because that's not the mulch plug. This is the mulch plug. All right, get this, and then you got to put it in there. So I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just, you know, one less thing you have to worry about with the Honda versus this EGO. It's still, this EGO is still a really good choice. So how about if you want a side discharge? So with this EGO, they have this little adapter here. It's a little finicky. I'm not a big fan of this. And in fact, I really never side discharge. The only time I ever side discharge is whenever I'm forced to cut the grass and it's wet. And I typically try to avoid that, but sometimes you just have no choice. I've yet to use a side discharge with the EGO. So for this, you open the door. All right, so it has a little flap down here. Okay, it goes in that flap, and then you close the door. Oops, on top of it. Okay. I mean, it's not that hard. This is my first time doing it. And, you know, I'm holding the phone, and that doesn't make it look that easy. But, you know, that's the side discharge. It comes out this way. Whereas with this, it's built in. So all you have to do is just remove the bag out the way, put it into bag mode. And this right here is the side discharge. So it'll just shoot grass clippings down. And then, you know, you'll get your shoes dirty, but that's pretty much about it. And, you know, you don't have to worry about with any adapters. So I don't know what to call that category, but hey, that's a win right here for this Honda. It's easy to go between mulch and bagging versus with the EGO. You got to worry about accessories. It's a little bit more clunky, but at the end of the day, you know, it's not a big deal. It's still fairly easy.
So unfortunately, I don't have a tripod to shoot B-roll of me cutting the grass between the Honda and the EGO, but this is just me doing a voiceover, kind of giving you my opinion after I did use it for about 2 weeks. So overall, I have to give the Honda the win. It did a great job just cutting the grass very even with the twin blade. It did a really great job mulching it up, bagging. It's pretty much a vacuum cleaner on wheels. It picks up so much more clippings than the EGO. Now the EGO is not bad. It is a really good mower. It's better than my last gas mower, but I never had a Honda to compare it to. In my opinion, the Honda wins in cut quality and has a beefier and heavier blade compared to the EGO, which I believe just makes it a really good choice in mulching.
So you got to ask yourself, why did I buy this Honda mower when I have this really good, great EGO electric lawnmower? And I'm only going to use this for one specific reason in mind. In the fall, where I live, our falls typically tend to be very wet. When the leaves fall down, and I have quite a bit of trees, and keep in mind, that's only my front yard. I have a good amount of trees in my backyard too.
So the intent is just to really use this as a backup lawnmower during the fall to mulch wet leaves.
In the winter, I use the EGO lawnmower to actually mulch branches and leaves, and it did an okay job. But what I noticed about this, in order for me to actually mulch, I had to put it at the lowest setting. And at the time, it was okay for me to do that because I had full intention of dethatching and reseeding my lawn. So typically, you don't want to mow at the lowest setting. When you do mow at the lowest setting, it has good enough suction that it will mulch. But I don't want to do that in the fall. In the fall, I want to be able to pick up my leaves, but I want to keep my grass intact. I don't want to scalp the thing. And that's where this comes into place, is why I have a gas mower. I invested very little money into this. I got this very cheap. But one of these good things about these gas lawnmowers is this right here. You don't have this on an electric lawnmower. This is the governor. So using this tachometer, I'm actually able to adjust the governor for this lawnmower to be able to run at a little over 3,200 RPM, which I know is a lot. But keep in mind, I'm only going to be using this lawnmower in the fall for the whole intention of mulching leaves. I want this blade to be running a little bit faster so I have good suction. All right, so here's another thing is when you have a gas lawnmower, you can, if you ever want to tilt it on a side, you can only tilt it with the air filter pointing up. Whereas with this electric lawnmower, I can tilt this either way I want. I don't have to worry about fluids, gas, oil, or anything spilling out of this. So if I want to take a look at the bottom of this lawnmower, maybe service the blade or to see if there's anything there or unstuck some grass, I don't have to worry about anything leaking out because it's an electric lawnmower. All right, so there's a win category when it comes to adjusting the speed of your blade with a gas lawnmower versus an electric. But that's more of an advanced user. You have to have the right tools and you have to know what you're doing in order to do that. The average consumer really is not going to be interested in making adjustments to the gas mower just to mulch leaves. Obviously, when it comes to maintenance, the electric lawnmower, the EGO, has the least amount of maintenance. All you have to do is just charge your battery, sharpen the blades, oil your ball bearing wheels from time to time and any other hinge, and that's it. You don't have to do anything. Just clean it and sharpen your blade. That's really the only maintenance you have to do. Whereas with this, you got to make sure that your air filter is clean. You got to look at your spark plug, make sure it's not fouled, make sure that the spark plug is gapped correctly, make sure that this has enough oil, that you change the oil every year. So you have good fuel in it, that you're using stable in your fuel or some type of fuel stabilizer, that you don't leave fuel inside your carburetor for a long period of time. You want to run that dry. On top of that, you still have to sharpen your blades and make sure that you clean it very well so that it doesn't rust on the other side. So that's a long list of maintenance stuff that you have to do. Whereas with this, you don't have to worry about that. But when it comes to long-term durability, if you're good at maintenance, you can have a gas mower go on forever. What I love about gas in general, as long as you maintain a gas mower, these things can go for years and years and years, and whenever it runs out of gas, you just fill it up. However, it's not all fun and games because there's other things that can go wrong, like the transmissions. The transmissions on these Honda lawnmowers are notorious for going bad and being very expensive. When it comes to EGO, there's a lot of plus, but here's the negative. This is an awesome battery. I really like this battery, and I really like this charger and how it's able to do a quick charge. My issue is we all are consumers of electronics with batteries in it. We have laptops, we have cell phones, we all know what's going to happen. What happens to your cell phone and your laptop after 2 to 3 years of using it is the battery does degrade. Yes, you're not using an electric lawnmower every day like a laptop or a phone, but these lithium-ion batteries, they do go bad over time. So somebody who's just barely able to cut their whole lawn on one charge when this thing is brand new, they won't be able to do that 2 or 3 years down the line. These batteries will start to lose their charge. They won't hold as much as they did before. So then one has to then go out and buy a second battery. And if you were looking at the 7.5 milliamp battery, that's about $350 on a second battery. So, I mean, that in itself, bam, you just put yourself whole $350. Whereas with a gas mower, if you're just doing your maintenance, in a couple years, you can keep this going, and all you're doing is just expensing out your gas and your oil. Now, EGO did come out with a brand new 10 milliamp battery, and that's $500 for that battery. That's where the pro and cons come. This is a great low maintenance, great cutting lawnmower, but I know in about 2 to 3 years, I'm probably going to be looking for a second battery. I personally will probably be on the market for a used battery, maybe a 5 milliamp, and I'll switch between the two. I'll have one charged up, so when this one dies out, I can swap it. Another thing I've already done to mitigate it, because I have power anxiety. I'm always fearing the power of the battery is going to go ahead and die out. Since my backyard is 100% fenced in, I usually will cut my backyard first, throw this in a quick charger, edge my front yard with a string trimmer, then come back with this battery, which is typically at 100%, and cut it. So, I mean, that's one way to mitigate it. So at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you to buy one over the other. There's pros about having a gas over electric. This thing over here is way more powerful than the electric one. If you maintain this thing can go on for 20 years. I'm sure if you maintain the Ego, it can go for 20 years. It just comes down to the battery. This thing ain't gonna last you for 20 years, so you'll have to keep buying new batteries. And who knows if Ego is going to continue to make this style battery in the future? You're pretty much at the mercy of the manufacturer of providing you that battery. Who knows? Maybe in the future you might be able to buy third-party batteries. On Amazon you can buy third-party knockoff Ryobis, and I've used those with success in the past. I don't know if that's going to happen with Ego, but that would be a good, cheaper option, because I would really love to get me a second battery, just not spend $350 on it. So at the end of the day, there is no clear winner. It really depends on your circumstances. I have a 1/4 acre lot. This thing here is all I need. I just got into the hobby of fixing lawnmowers, and that's where I picked this thing up. For the folks out there that just say, hey, just wait for your leaves to dry and go ahead and rake them and mulch them that way, I don't always get that luxury here where I'm at. In the fall, it just rains all the time. We'll spend about maybe 2 or 3 weeks of just nonstop rain. So you may get a day or two break in between. I mean, those leaves are still wet, and it takes days for these wet leaves that are piling up to dry out. So you're kind of forced to have to pick up wet leaves. I just like to mulch it. That's why I got this. It was super cheap. It was a fun hobby, but I still like the Honda. I still like the gas mowers. I don't want to give it up. So I'm going to keep these two lawnmowers and use this as my main lawnmower and use this as my backup.